Let's talk about the egg drop lab report. First things first, when you're making your explanations, you have vocabulary from Unit 1 and Unit 2. Try to use that vocabulary in your explanations to make them easier to understand and so they show that you understand what those terms mean and how to use them. Next thing I need to talk about. If the name field is blank, then I'm going to take off points because you didn't put your name on your work. Also, if you worked with a partner and your partner's name is not on there and you submitted it and it doesn't have their name on it, they are going to get a 0. So please take some time to fill out the name blank. The first question that we see is explain how your device is designed to protect the egg in a 5.5 meter drop. Include references to time and velocity. This needs to be sentences. It needs to identify each feature and then explain how that feature protects the eggs. If you just put a picture in this box without an explanation, that doesn't really help. Also, it specifically says that the pictures need to be shown below the lab report, so please follow instructions. If your explanation talks about how comfortable the egg is going to be, you're really not tackling the science terms, so please use science terms to explain how your device protects the eggs. If it just says it has a plastic bag, what is a plastic bag for? What does it do? How does it help the egg survive the fall? Next question. Describe how your apparatus protected your egg or why it failed to protect the egg. This also needs to be sentences. It needs to identify the feature that was responsible for protecting the egg, and then it needs to explain how that feature successfully protected the egg or why it did not protect the egg. What was the main point of failure and how did that happen? So a lot of the sentences I'm seeing are way too brief. It just basically says the egg broke, and that's not enough. Please explain from the context using the features, explain how those worked or did not work to protect your egg. If you had to build an egg drop apparatus again for a 12-meter drop, what changes would you make to improve the outcome? This also needs to be sentences. It needs to identify each new feature or change or material. Explain how that feature would improve the device. There's always room for improvement. So especially if you identified problems in your observation about it was difficult to remove the egg from the device or it was kind of wobbling as it fell, things like that, you need to kind of look at how to make that better. Also, another way to make this one really easy is to identify better materials to construct it out of, or to make it easier to access, or something like that if your device was successful. Think about iPhones. If we just had the attitude of no changes needed, then we would all be using the original iPhone and Apple would not be releasing a new one every year or so. So there always can be an improvement. You can improve materials, make it lighter, make it tougher, make it easier to access, make the parachute larger so it lowers the velocity. You could include more cushioning to extend that compression time even more. Things like that. If you just put none or no changes needed, this is going to be wrong, and there's just a few things you have to write down on this, so these are going to count for a lot of points. It's important that you do a really great job on this report.